Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of All Things College and Career. Before we introduce today's guest, we want to tell you all about our live podcast happening on Wednesday, January 29th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Doors open at 6 at the Sanford Performing Arts Center in Sanford, Maine. We will be interviewing Under Armour pro runner and Sanford, Maine native Rachel Schneider. It will be a fantastic opportunity to come out and hear all about the road to becoming a pro and then the life of a pro athlete. You can find out all about the event on All Things College and Career social media pages. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, or on our webpage, www.atcandc.com. So atcandc.com. And as always, all of the links will be in our show notes. The event is free and everyone is more than welcome. We hope to see you there. So for now, let's get on to today's guest.
Today we have a fascinating guest, Robin Shafer from Belize. She's an amazing person. You'll find this so interesting. She grew up in Belize. She went to junior college there, went on to go to college in Taiwan and learn Mandarin, Chinese, and then went to the University of Oxford in England. And anyway, we get into her life experiences and YouTube channel, and she just is a wealth of knowledge for anybody that is young and searching out a way to go to college on a full scholarship. She had such great tips and advice on how to get into a great school, and this is coming from someone that didn't have the best educational experience in middle school and high school. She developed that later in life, so I found that to be truly inspirational as well.
Yes, I definitely did too. She is just one exceptional young woman. So enough of our introduction. Let's get on to our conversation with Robin.
Let's do it. Hello, Robin Shafer. Welcome to All Things College and Career. Thanks so much for doing our podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi to you both.
Hello, Robin. Hello to you. I'm loving the background noises. It sounds like tropical birds.
Well, I'm in a tropical country, so.
All right. So you're talking to us from?
From Belize, Central America.
Right, where you were born in a beautiful country.
Yeah, it's lovely and the weather is great today. I tried to get them to fly away, but there's too many.
Oh, no. Being in Maine and not having any bird sounds at all right now this time of year, it's kind of nice. It makes me feel like I'm on a little bit of a vacation here.
Except for the chickadees and things like that. We do have some. Our windows are all closed, so we don't hear them too much. Yeah.
Exactly, Meg. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So, Robin, we just want to get right into this. So, we know you just recently left Oxford, so you probably have not had a ton of time to start your career, but we know you've had more experiences than many people have in a lifetime. So with that in mind, can you tell us 3 things about your life experiences that you believe will be useful to you, or anyone for that matter, as you start your career?
Sure. Well, actually, I already have a pretty robust CV because I started working from I was 18 years old, just as a news intern and then as a journalist. And then I've been in PR. And I start on Monday with a new job doing social planning and development.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. Wonderful.
So the 3 main things that I've found have helped me are 1, be kind, nice, polite to everyone you meet because you never know where that connection can come from.
Amen.
Yeah. I've gotten job interviews through just the most bizarre connections. My wife met you at the store, and I mean, Belize is a country of 400,000 people, but you never know where that next connection can come, and just trying to be polite, kind, nice to everyone you meet helps you to build up those touch point
Absolutely.
moments.
Yeah. Great words of wisdom to fall by always.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I guess another very important thing that has helped me is not being afraid to start off on the lower end than you would want. Sometimes, especially if you go to school and you come back and you're transitioning, you're going to have to do a reset when it comes to maybe you're back in an entry-level position or you're back in a mid-level position, especially as a young professional. And when you're in a situation where there are not that many employees, you're going to have to do other people's work at times or pick up the slack. Just do it. Just jump in wholeheartedly and give your all to your job, because they will see that and come to rely on you. And once you are indispensable, then you'll be in a better position to bargain and negotiate for whatever is the next step.
Another piece of a solid advice. I mean, if you come into a company and you already have a ton of experience, but hey, you don't mind that junior role because you're willing to work your way up, you're going to shine fast.
All right.
And people will take notice. That's a really good tip.
And for those listeners, some might want to turn back and listen to Rob Egan, one of our podcast guests that touched on that. He's a senior VP at a large company and hires people all the time. And he's talked a bit about that as a quality to work hard and let them know your work ethic and your abilities, and eventually it will get recognized.
And he said the same thing. Don't be afraid to take that junior position or that lesser position than you think you're qualified for.
Don't be so concerned with salary and position.
And title. Yep.
And title
definitely.
at the beginning.
And smaller companies can actually be better for you because then you'll have to do more. If it's a very big company, then your role will be very narrow.
Absolutely.
But if it's a smaller company,
you wear more hats. You get involved with a lot more things, for sure. So those are two great things. You got a third, or?
Yeah, I guess the third is the importance of networking, and that's where the first one kind of feeds in. So I got a job so quickly. I came back on Thursday and I have a job on Monday already, because I've been just networking for 2 years. Everything is building that network. Even my graduate thesis, I did it on Belize, and I interviewed a range of stakeholders within the government, outside of the government. And that's a way to build that network as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
In media, internships, just try to think. LinkedIn is another great way. That's how you guys got a hold of my video.
Yes, we did.
Yep. This may be a good time to say you just wrapped up and left. So Robin has just recently graduated from Oxford University. So maybe you would just like to touch upon that experience a bit.
Sure. It was amazing, really. I went to a university in Taiwan prior to it where not many people go on to graduate school because it's very practical. And coming from Belize, Oxford is just such this impossible dream, but being there was eye-opening, again, about the importance of network and just also about how much one has to study in a day.
Absolutely. And not only, Belize, I'm sure that's true for Oxford, but heck, coming from anywhere, getting into Oxford is but Belize, I know what you're saying. And amazing amount of studying.
Yeah.
And actually, just to stay on track, we want to sort of go in order here a bit. So we will circle back around to your experience at Oxford, but I just want to sort of take a step back and talk about briefly how it all began and what it was like to grow up in Belize, and tell us about your childhood a little.
Well, I guess what helped me to stand out just among my peers to get to that level of Oxford was just early literacy skills. So my mom, she's a university professor and a linguist, and she always pushed reading. From I was 5 years old, I was starting to read chapter books.
Wow.
And that was the single biggest influence in my life, I'd say, that got me through everything. Literacy. If you can understand, if you can read and write, communicate, the whole world is unlocked.
Right. And comprehend what you're reading and be able to use it.
Absolutely.
Right.
And in Belize specifically, it's an important skill, or any situation where maybe there are lower learning outcomes than you'd hope. In Belize, our literacy rates aren't very high. Our poverty rates are, unfortunately. And our school system is one where if you're in a very good school, you're very lucky, because most schools are struggling with funding. And I know in the US as well, you can be in one neighborhood, especially with zoning, right? One neighborhood has an amazing school where you're already doing algebra, and then another school you're still at very basic.
That's so true. And people spend a lot of money to try to live in a town that has a great school district, but sometimes that's just not affordable, and it's not an even playing field, for sure.
So that love of reading was what really propelled me forward. And growing up in Belize is quite nice because you have always this strong sense of community. So that is something that helped me a lot. Just this support system wherever you go in the world. If you know another Belizean, you're home. So
I love that. I love that.
We have Emily Butterworth, who also is a previous podcast guest, who's an international teacher, teaches in Medellin, Colombia. She's been there, I think, for 4 years. And she comments on how warm I know it's not Belize,
no, but it's that same kind of region.
The same kind of warmness and culture that you're talking about. So from there, you decided to go on to St. John's, which was a junior college in Belize, where you earned your associate's degree. So perhaps you could tell us a bit about that and that experience.
Sure. So upon graduating high school, I really wanted to live in the US. My dad's American, and I don't know, I was in a rebellious stage where I just wanted to be around many people, and I'm like, somewhere nice, Florida. And I applied to several schools in the US, but my SAT scores weren't high. We aren't trained in Belize to do the SATs. We're trained to do regional examinations, so the entire syllabus, everything is quite different, especially when you go with the English and all that.
Right.
So yeah, I didn't get into any schools, and I was very disappointed. And my mom told me, go to the community college here, build up your skills.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I applied myself and found that I loved the literature courses. Started doing an internship at a news station to fill my time, loved journalism, and then got a scholarship to go to Taiwan to do journalism and communications.
How did you get that scholarship? What was the process?
I think it was the Taiwan ICDF scholarship program.
Yes, that's right. So there are various scholarships for, just to make it more general to all the listeners, that you can look at. There's some scholarships like Rhodes that are open worldwide, and then there are country-specific scholarships. There are even ethnic group specific scholarships. In the US, there are African American scholarships, Latina scholarships. So for Belize, we have quite a few developing scholarships, and for Taiwan specifically, there are about 16 countries that supports its claim to independence. So we have access to that scholarship as well.
Yeah.
Every year they give about 22, and it was standard application form, references, and actually I had met the ambassador through my work in journalism, and I said, I'm applying for this scholarship, any tips? And he said, just do your best, make sure you get really good references. So the references were important.
Yeah, they usually are.
Yeah.
So you picked Taiwan because of the access to the scholarship, or were you thinking, I really want to go to school there, and then you looked for the scholarship?
Well, Belize is very small, and I wanted to kind of, like I said, I was in a rebellious phase, get out, see the world.
Sure.
And also, I didn't have any money to pay for school.
Right.
My mom was doing her PhD at the time. My dad, he was doing some odd jobs here and there. So none of us, we weren't in a position where we could even apply for a big enough loan for me to go to university. So
sure.
Yeah, it was perfect, the scholarship, 4 years in Taiwan. And then I spent an extra year learning Chinese. I definitely wanted to focus on that language aspect, because if you're all the way in Taiwan, you might as well.
Right.
I mean, learning Chinese has to be daunting.
Yeah.
To me, when I see it or hear it, and if I assume you learn Mandarin, I can't imagine. It must be really difficult. Can you tell us about it?
No, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, because it's so alien, the thinking to English, just the order of words. Like you would say, I am going today to the market. You would say, I today go to market. You know, you don't use many articles. There's no articles.
Right.
You don't conjugate.
No, I am. No verb to follow. I go. Yeah. I am going.
Just completely different. So your entire logic changes. And then the way the words you use also, like I would just say, yeah, I can do it. In Chinese, you'd have 3 words. One to say ability, one to say permission, and one to say skill. So it really enriches the way you even see your own language, because you start categorizing things in a different way.
That's so interesting. I love that. Yeah, so you have to sort of break it down mentally before you speak.
Definitely,
Right.
Yeah.
But so smart to get that under your belt while you're over there. I mean, that's a great asset to have that ability to speak another language. Yeah.
So you earned your bachelor's degree there, and it's at Ming Chuan University or Ming Chuan?
Ming Chuan, Ming Chuan University.
So what was it like to live in Taiwan?
Taiwan was very different, because Belize, our tallest building is a Maya ruin. The tallest building in Taiwan at the time was the 2nd tallest in the world, Taipei 101. I think now it's the 4th. And just the amount of people, 400,000 in all of Belize. Taiwan is about a third the size bigger, and they have 24 million.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
Transportation. We drive everywhere. They have scooters and bikes, and it was just... And then in Belize, we're multicultural. There, it's pretty homogenous, the society. So sometimes you'd be walking on the street when I first got there, and I just realized I'm the only foreigner on this entire street of hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands. It was very intense.
Did you find things crowded, like the streets and apartments? Were they small or?
Yeah, like in Belize, you say you go to some someone's house, it's a house, maybe bungalow or 2-story with a yard. There, a house is just an apartment. So you always have people above you and below you. But you get used to it, Humans are really adaptable.
Yeah. How was the food?
The food was different. In Belize, we use a lot of spices. And in Taiwan, they don't.
So it seemed bland to you in comparison.
Oh,
probably.
absolutely bland. And then things you would expect to be salty, like red beans, kidney beans, I'd expect that to be salty. There it would be sweet. So it was a lot to get adjusted to. In the end, I just learned how to cook.
Right. Survival.
Wow. Yeah. So while you were there, you participated in cheerleading. Is that correct?
Yeah, I threw myself into many different things. The cheerleading competition was pretty intense. So it's more like dance. Doesn't have that gymnastics element, but the training for it was like 4 hours every day after class, and then from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. on both Saturday and Sunday for 2 months leading up to the competition.
Wow.
That's D1 cheerleading.
It was afterwards, like my body could move so fast and I was so strong.
Wow, I bet. So how did the competition go?
We came in 4th, so we did really well. And
that is awesome.
Yeah. And it was great for just like intercultural exchange in Taiwan. It was the biggest strength. When I went back recently just to visit, and I gave a talk at my former university, and I was telling the students the biggest strength you have here at this school isn't necessarily going to be the academics, but it's the intercultural experiences that you have. In one classroom, you'll have people from 5 different denominations. You'll have people from every region. So to be able to build up those communication skills where you speak in an inoffensive but very clear way to people who might be second or third language speakers, and where people can communicate and approach you, that's huge.
Right.
And that's something that being in cheerleading and other types of extracurriculars really impressed on me. That and dedication.
Right.
I mean, I could never before imagine myself putting so much effort into something unpaid.
Right. Unpaid and that was demanding. A lot of hours, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's funny, though. Then you decided to leave Taiwan and go to Oxford. Can you tell us about how that all happened?
Sure. So from my undergraduate, I was like, I'm going to try to go to Oxford. And everyone thought I was crazy. Especially because in high school and in elementary school, I was not at all a good student. I don't know if I wasn't challenged or if I just was uninterested in the material, but I was never known as the bright student. And something changed once I found my interest in literature in community college, and then in Taiwan I just threw myself into my environment and my academics, and I did very well in the courses. And once I graduated, I said, okay, to get from here to Oxford, what do I need to do? I needed, first of all, funding.
Money.
It's very expensive. And also I thought, a statement of purpose, something that would make me stand out. I think in those elite spaces, more and more, they're moving away from focusing on what your technical skills are or who you know, what your extracurriculars are. And more they're looking at how much do you want to be here and how aware are you of the field.
Right. And what are you going to do when you get here? Like, what is your goal? Right. And I love how you said that you weren't a great student. And until you found what it was that motivated you and drove you, that's when you've had academic success. And I think that's a good thing for everyone to know, that you don't have to be a star student to, fulfill those dreams.
Absolutely. And it's a good story and inspiration for those that have maybe started out on not the best track. And
sure.
Can I just step back a bit and ask you just one more question about your time in Taiwan? When you were speaking or addressing the class, did you do that in Mandarin, or does everybody speak English, or how does that go?
Well, it was an international college that I attended, so you could have gotten by without knowing any Mandarin. When I spoke to the class, I did incorporate some Chinese, just because I find that it's a good way to engage the students, Taiwanese students, Chinese students, but it was in English. So for those students who go to the international colleges, especially if you're in Taipei, the you can get by without knowing any Chinese, but you shouldn't. If you even go to Florida, if you're like from Washington and you go to Florida, learn Spanish. You'll have enough people around you who speak Spanish. Do it, because the more languages you know, the better for you.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What would you consider to be, I mean, now I'm really getting off track, but you speak 4 languages and you've lived in on 3 continents, so which is quite amazing. And you're how old?
26.
26. So there you go.
Right.
But what is your primary language or your birth language?
Belize Creole. So it's a dialect of English. It's a language, but so it's based on West African grammar, but English vocabulary.
Yeah, I have to say, I was on your Facebook page and you made this post and I'm like, she's typing in kind of like this combination of English, like I can almost read it, but not quite.
Yeah. So that's in Belize, it's the national language and our official language is English. And my mom specifically, she is a huge proponent of the Belize Creole language. She helped standardize the writing system. So always when I'm asked, I have to say Belize Creole is my first language.
Because your mom might be listening.
So would you say your second language is Spanish then? Or English?
Well, I guess my second language would be English. I mean, I'm a dual native speaker. I grew up speaking both.
Sure.
And then probably my real second language, foreign language, would be Chinese, because I know it at a much higher level than I know Spanish.
Yeah. Really?
So
wow.
how long did you spend learning that, though? How long were you over in Taiwan, and how long did you have to learn that? Because for you to feel that confident about it in such a little period of time, it would seem.
Well, I was there 5 years, and I spent every summer, about 2 months doing intensive courses. And then I tried to practice throughout the year. And then I spent a final year doing 3 hours every day for 5 days a week for about a year.
Wow.
And the average person takes about a year and a half, I'd say, of 3-hour courses each day to learn Chinese to like B2 level, which would be intermediate level fluency, which is about where I'm at.
That's really good. To get to that highest level is really, really tough.
Oh, yeah.
You have to know every part of the grammar and all the rules and speak it very fluently. Yeah, so it's hard to obtain. So a 2 is really impressive.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You're welcome. I guess that's what I'm trying to get to. It's,
right. Absolutely.
So that was it. So that was, wait a minute. Oh, in Spanish. So those are her 4 languages. Yeah. Impressive. Yeah. I speak Abu-Dhabi, a little French. And
I know, yeah. It's pretty sad, but true.
I wish I spoke more languages, though. I really do.
Yeah.
Everybody says to learn a language, you really just have to live where you're learning it. That's the way to learn it. Otherwise,
I believe that, yeah.
I've never had the opportunity to live someplace where they speak a different language. Even when I travel, everybody wants to speak English to you.
English,
yeah.
You don't even get a chance to try on your French.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity for them to. So, yeah.
Well, if you're young enough, or if you don't have any dependents or like any big thing that ties you down. For me, for example, I spent 2 months working as an au pair in Spain this last year, just because I wanted to build up that Spanish. And I think the best way is to just be in that context. So for a lot of younger people maybe, or just anyone who's about to go through a transitional period, if you want to take a gap year or gap 6 months, a really good idea would be to just go to a country and build up that language.
That's a great idea.
Absolutely.
That's a great way to make a living while you're trying to immerse yourself. So such a great tip. But I just want to circle back a little bit to your application process in going to Oxford. You applied for the
Cheerleading scholarship.
Cheerleading scholarship in
Cheerleading. Yeah.
Okay.
It took me like 6 months after I already got it to learn how to pronounce it somewhere.
You're making us feel better.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyway, could you tell us a bit about that? And that's what made it possible for you to go, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. So in 2017, I had applied to several scholarships, some university specific. I did Erasmus Mundus, I did Cheerleading, Commonwealth, several scholarships. I didn't get any. And it was an intense process. But at that time, I hadn't applied to Oxford yet, and it was all of them needed their own references, and they just want you to provide like an email address. Gone are the days where you just get 5 references signed and then email them out. So I had to just pester like 15 professors. Thank goodness I had gotten to know so many. And then each had their own application process. Most of them wanted a personal statement of about 1,500 characters. And then they also had their own short form questions, leadership, networking, community outreach, whatever the focus of the scholarship was. For Cheerleading specifically, they focused a lot on leadership. So every question has a leadership element, and you need to find, it's about 6 questions. I think you need to find new ways to show leadership, which is quite much harder than you think it is.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
They also all needed work experience. And that's what I think I didn't have that first application cycle. So then I applied again after working for a year in the government in Belize, and then I got 2 scholarships.
Oh, wow.
So working for the government in Belize, was that the Restore Belize?
Restore Belize. That's right, yeah.
Tell us about that a little bit. That seems fascinating.
Sure. So then in 2017, when I got back like 6 rejections or something in the span of 2 weeks, I was feeling so low and thinking, what's the point of even thinking of applying to grad school? I don't have a hope.
Yeah.
And then, you pick yourself up after you're moping around for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And I realized when I look back on all my applications, first of all, I was applying to too many scholarships. I needed to narrow down to really focus.
And do a good job on that scholarship. Yeah.
Exactly. I was spreading myself too thinly, and also I didn't have a clear enough statement of purpose, because your scholarship application, any application, you are selling yourself and convincing people to invest in you.
Right.
You need to tell them why you are the best investment, and I think I wasn't doing a good enough job. So
that's good self-realization there, Robin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of just blaming, everything.
Exactly.
You got introspective and you said, all right, because, you're what, 24 or whatever at the time?
Yeah, I think so.
So that's
24.
Impressive. Yep.
And then I reached out to my network as well, extended network, my mom's friends, children, anyone who had gotten a scholarship, particularly that Cheerleading scholarship, asked them to look at my application, give me some advice. And a lot of them told me the same thing. You don't showcase leadership enough, or I was being too unconfident when I was writing.
Right.
So I was using a lot of qualifiers, and I didn't want to say things like I led a fundraiser of. I was just saying I helped organize, when really I led it.
Yeah.
I was being too modest, I guess, in my... Yeah.
Right. Sell those accomplishments, right?
Yeah, they want to see confidence, right? Leadership has that element of confidence, and then also work experience. And so I emailed a few places in Belize, just letters expressing interest, saying pretty much, I want to apply to grad schools, but I want to build experience and really see where the needs are in Belize and how I can fit in to help fill those gaps. I'm young, I'm dedicated, I'm hardworking. There's nothing to stop me from throwing my all into this job. I don't need a lot of money, just enough to sustain myself. You can work me to the bone, just give me a job.
Hey, you're hired is basically what I would say. That's a great applicant. Right.
And I carefully researched as well. So I had applied to I sent emails to 3 different foundations, and one was Restore Belize, the government unit. And I was very intentional. I spent time reading up about the news articles, anything, just searched in Google the name of the organizations and then compiled little profiles on each. And then I reached out to former employees as well to see what the environment is like. And then I formed those letters. So I was very intentional for that lead up to coming back to Belize and working there at Restore Belize.
So what is Restore Belize? What were you doing there?
It's in the office of the Prime Minister, and it's a unit that receives most of the funding, donor funding for the country of Belize, and helps to coordinate the allocation of those funds to social programs. Its aim is
education
education and health, anything that helps the overall goal, which is to impact citizen security, so help make Belize safer. And they do that by addressing the root causes of crime. And I knew I wanted to do education for development, something around those lines, and I figured that would be a really good place to go because it's small staffed. I always try to go somewhere with that small staff if I'm trying to build experience.
Yeah.
That's such an awesome tip right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I had the same experience. I worked at, small startup companies, and I just got to do basically 50 jobs in one. And you have so much to put on your resume. A lot to build off from. Yeah.
And it had enough education programs that I think I thought I would have gotten to really see the big picture of the need in education. And that's exactly what I got.
Yeah.
It was excellent. Yeah. I was doing communications. And then through that, I started doing program management and event planning, and it just spiraled off from there.
Right. Encompassed so many projects, I'm sure. Did they ever find out what the root cause of poverty was? Did you ever figure that out?
Well, there are several theories, but it pretty much boiled down to not enough resources, right? So if you're from, I'll just give a case study, like a typical example. If you're a child growing up in a home where you have maybe 4 siblings, you all live in a 1-bedroom bungalow house. Maybe sometimes you don't have electricity because your mom can't pay. Maybe the father has left and you've had different men in your life as father figures. Then you go to a school where your uniform doesn't fit you right, and you have maybe behavioral issues because you're not getting enough care at home. And then the teacher already brands you as a problem student who doesn't care, when really you're just a child that needs love and affection. You don't get any comfort from home. You don't get any comfort from school. And the gangs in Belize, or anywhere really, people who don't have your best interests at heart and want to use you will show you affection, will give you money,
right?
Provide, feeds into crime,
and
right?
you're so vulnerable because you're craving that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's really tough.
Addressing the root causes of crime was really, for that particular unit, focusing on those most vulnerable children and giving them opportunities, scholarships, mentoring, counseling, because there's a lot of trauma as well in those spaces.
I'm sure, yes. So once you completed your work experience and you reapplied for the scholarship, you got it. So at that point, was that when you decided to apply to Oxford?
Well, so the application to Oxford was, I had deferred 2 of my acceptances. So I had gotten accepted into all the universities I applied to, but none of the scholarships.
I see.
And so
I see.
Yeah, so it was pretty much like not getting anywhere because I couldn't afford to go there.
Right.
Especially because money in Belize is like $1 US dollar is 2 Belize. So then with pounds, it's even worth less.
It's pounds,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I deferred one of my applications and told the other schools that, I wouldn't be attending and I was going to go to University College London, which was my first choice. Then my dad was pressuring me to, well, in a good way, right? Pushing me to do the GRE and apply to schools in the US. And I said, well, I'll apply to Oxford because the GRE has a math element that's really just daunting.
Yeah.
That's not your thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, and the Oxford application, I did that. So I would work from about 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. It was about an hour commute each day to get home. And then I'd spend about 4 hours researching, because to apply to Oxford, you have your personal statement. And then you also had to write for my program 2 2,000-word articles on the field, research articles. Yeah, so properly cited on the field, and you have to show critical thought and creativity. So I didn't know anything about the field I wanted to go into. So I spent about 4 hours each day, and then on weekends I spent about 3 hours just reading and then starting to write those essays. One was an article that I wrote about how the relationship between poverty and education, particularly in the Caribbean context. And the other one, I did a critical review of a journal article about policy in the Caribbean, I think. But that was a huge learning curve. It was very difficult because when you come home from work, all you want to do is just watch some TV.
Yeah, absolutely.
That took some real.
It's like a second job.
Yeah, that took a lot of drive and determination. But it sounds like you really showed a knowledge and passion of the area that you wanted to study, and I think that combined with your international experience.
And then we had an interview that we had to do as well. So I got shortlisted for the interview with 2 of the leading professors on development, one of whom became my supervisor, one of whom I cited actually in my articles, and I was just so terrified.
Wow. That's so. Now, was that intentional or?
No,
I don't think so. Yeah, it was just, I didn't realize he was the head of the department where I wanted to.
That definitely, I'm sure, caught their eye.
So was that a phone interview or?
Yeah, it was a Skype interview, and Actually, I cheated for the interview. So if you ever have a Skype interview, I recommend this. I wrote on Post-its, just little tips so I wouldn't forget, because you get nervous, and I stuck them all over my computer.
Oh, yeah. That's great tip.
They can't see them.
Yeah. Fantastic idea. That was great. Yeah.
All right, another tip. Yep.
That's awesome. I love it.
So you're heading to Oxford now. You're packing up and moving. So tell us about your experience at Oxford.
Oh, it was crazy. I'd never been in Europe prior to that. So just seeing buildings older than, you've ever seen before.
I know,
and in
that
Oxford,
is crazy. Yeah.
They have buildings from, I think their oldest building is from the year 1100.
Wow.
Sure. Yeah.
So it was, just these huge stone castles.
Yeah.
And these are colleges where people study and live.
I know. And the people that you've heard of your whole life, these great thinkers and,
You walk down and you're seeing the lampposts and the door that inspired the Chronicles of Narnia. And then you look over and you see the two towers that inspired Lord of the Rings. And you're just in awe.
Right. In awe. Right. No words.
That's so interesting. You're actually the second guest we've had on the podcast that went to Oxford, which is kind of amazing. But
but the first guest, he was from England. So I don't know if that helps at all, but he's also a very bright guy.
Yes, but I'm curious. We asked him to compare, because he also went to Stanford for his graduate degree. And we asked him to compare American schools to his experience here to there. And how would you compare? Like, you went to associate's degree in Belize, and then your bachelor's in Taiwan and your master's degree in the UK. So how would you compare the experiences, like the pluses and minuses?
Sure. I've thought about this a lot because I want to do PhD, and I'm pretty sure I'll want to do it in the US. Because in the UK, it's special because they really prize learning on your own, right? Autonomous learning. So if you need to build up technical skills, if you're unsure of something, you will get guidance from your supervisors, but they're not going to teach you how to do it. They will give you ideas and challenge your thinking. You'll get a lot of critical thinking development because they will find holes in your logic.
Right.
Always.
Right.
But the technical skills, the quantitative skills, how to do a regressional analysis and all these things, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get any hand holding, and you won't get a lot of emotional support. And coming from Belize, a very tropical country, and Taiwan, subtropical, to a place that had winter where it got dark from 3:30, it was a huge emotional strain. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm grateful for the experience, but a lot of it was very just taxing. Yeah. And if I were to do a PhD, I'd want to go somewhere where they're a bit more hand-holding, as the UK say, where they give more guidance and a lot more technical courses, because I think I need that.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. What would you do a PhD in?
Education policy, I think. Yeah, actually, Stanford is where I'm looking, so I find it funny
that's
I'm going to have to listen to that.
We wish you luck. Yeah, you should go back. He started a company actually to streamline how you get scholarships.
Right. And you should definitely check it out.
Check it out. It's Going Merry is the name of the company, and his name is Charlie Maynard. He was one of the two founders. So go back and check that out on our website. You'll find it.
And just for our listeners, all these podcasts we mentioned will link in the show notes in case you want to go back and listen to any of them. So right. So you don't have to go searching. Right. So Robin, you left Oxford, and sounds like you had a great experience there and learned a lot. One of the things that we know you have now is a YouTube channel called Belizean Talk. Is it Talk? Is that how you pronounce it?
Talk, yeah. It's in Creole.
Okay, that's what I figured. So what can you tell us about your YouTube channel?
Sure. I started the YouTube channel as a personal project because after graduation, I wanted to give myself some time to just be creative and focus on me before jumping back into work. And I did it because it takes not much money. Anyone can start a YouTube channel.
Sure.
And it would be a really good way for me to build up those practical skills in communication that I hadn't really utilized before. So my professional, I guess, brand would be someone who is a communications professional, but focused in education.
Right.
And I didn't have enough in videography. So it's not really meant to build up and have a huge following, or it wasn't my main goal. My main goal was to show employers that I have the skills needed for that particular job description, and also to get the word out in Belize that, I'm applying for jobs.
Yeah.
I'm competent.
Yes.
Honestly,
I'm capable.
that is really smart because, a future employer, they might just want to see how this person handles themselves and comes across, and you actually come across really great in your videos. So I think it's a plus, right? You're not so much looking for followers, but it's another platform to help you get a career that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And plus, I got a lot of advice throughout my life regarding scholarships and just going for your goals. I was lucky enough to get a mentor when I was younger in media, and I just wanted to give back some of that knowledge because I do get a lot of messages from people asking advice on applying for scholarships. And so I don't repeat myself, but also so it's more accessible to those who maybe are too shy to reach out.
Right.
I just
it's a great
did that.
platform.
Yeah, it's a great service to others. And this isn't on your Belizean Talk YouTube channel, but you had another video that you put out showing the celebration of the Belize Independence Day.
Carnival,
the Carnival.
That was Carnival.
So Belize is just basically a new country. It's 37 years old as when you made the video, which was in 2018. So I'm guessing it's about 39 years right now, but
it's gonna be September.
In September 21st is Independence Day.
Independence Day, that's right.
If anybody would like to check out that video, it's a wonderful display of the culture and celebration that you have there in Belize. It was awesome.
Yeah, and we'll share that link so people don't have to go looking for it. But it was really colorful, fun. I kind of wanted to be there. I like the dancing. I want to wear, fun, colorful outfits and jumping on the dancing,
Absolutely. But you also had
looks like a good time.
It looked like a great time. But you also just recently put out a video about how to limit
social media.
Yeah. So would you like to talk a bit about that?
Sure. Social media can be an excellent platform for networking. On Facebook, I mostly have professional networks on there, and it's a great way to kind of tap into the pulse of how people are, especially in a country like Belize that's quite small. But it's very draining. You put in a lot, but you don't get out much. The things you get out are quite superficial usually. Just these, dopamine rushes. And there's more and more people coming out of Silicon Valley who advocate for a new model of social media where you, the person using it, aren't the product. Because as it stands, our data is being used, and the longer they can keep us on, the more they can create that cycle of highs and lows, the more we'll use it. And it's beneficial to them to make money, but it's really draining for us and emotionally detrimental, especially for the younger generations who have never seen life outside of social media. And I find that I'm just so much more productive when I don't use it that much. So I deleted all the apps from my phone, and I just kind of keep enough of a presence so, I can maintain communications because that's my role in work.
But you had mentioned it's a sleep deprivation thing for people that can't put it aside during. Also, I was really shocked at how you said it could eat up an entire month of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, the average
if you add
user.
it up over the course of a year, and that's just
the average. Like, that's not the people who are just very addicted and spend 4 hours each day or a month of your life. We like to tell ourselves, we don't have enough time. I could never learn Chinese because I'll never have enough time. But if you have enough time to do things like go on social media, watch Netflix, if you just force yourself to be dedicated and determined an hour each day, you will learn anything you want. You can do anything you want, I think.
I think you're right. So, Robin, we usually end our podcast with 10 what we call rapid fire questions.
Sure.
And you don't have to have rapid answers, no pressure. But were you ready for that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I love that. Let's do it. Okay. Number 1, did you make a New Year's resolution?
Yeah, I did. My New Year's resolution was to be more intentional with what I do, like my communications with others. So I've been pretty lazy using social media in the past to maintain connections with friends because I've lived all over the world. So I have friends in pretty much every continent. So I want to actually dedicate time and say, hey, once a month we have to do a video call, or we have to, instead of just liking posts. So yeah. Right.
A more intentional communication with friends. I love that. I think everybody should do that. So what is your dream job?
My dream job is to be an international consultant where I just work like 4 days a week if I want, or 6 months out of the year.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty good.
And do a lot of traveling, or?
Yeah, traveling. Yeah. I don't want to own anything because I really don't like to be tied down. Having a kind of nomadic life has made me really commitment adverse.
Yeah. Right. You want to be able to pick up your backpack and go. right?
Exactly, yeah.
I getcha. I like that too.
So when you say that you'd like to be an international consultant, would that be in educational policy? Is that what you're...
Yeah, I think that's my main goal, or organizational management. I mean, it would depend on how my life progresses in the next few years, but
That's
that would
your
be
goal.
my goal.
Okay, sorry, I don't want to detract from the rapid fire. Okay.
No, that's fine. Oh, yeah. Well, come on, Meg. We're not being rapid.
right?
No, just kidding. Okay. Best piece of advice you have been given, or one of the best?
The best advice I was ever given was from my mentor who I mentioned. He told me, I'm not the smartest, I'm not the prettiest, but I am the most determined person you will ever meet.
Yeah, that's great.
Perfect.
So if you have determination, you will beat out everyone in the world.
Right. Determination wins. I 100% agree with that. Something you think is underrated?
Human connection, I'd say. Yeah.
That goes along with your first one about your
definitely.
New Year's resolution. Yeah, I think we're losing it. Yeah, we really are. So I like that too. You get some good answers here, Robin. Favorite holiday?
Favorite holiday is Christmas. Spending time with family.
I thought for sure you would say Belizean Independence Day.
Belizean Independence. Yeah.
A lot of people would say that, but Christmas really, it's from September all the way to December. You have so many holidays. It's like one giant.
There you go.
Yeah. It's so true. It's crazy time of year. Okay. Food you could not live without.
Oh, rice and beans. Rice and beans, stewed chicken, and potato salad.
Yeah.
It's like the national dish of Belize.
I could eat that. I'm coming down. And spicy, right?
Yeah, you can add some onion sauce with pepper.
Yeah. That sounds good. Okay, someone you admire.
Someone I admire. Genghis Khan. It's a very weird answer.
Yeah.
But
let's hear why.
Because he was a barbarian, as they say, the history books say, didn't have any formal education or anything, but managed to conquer China. And I just find that really amazing.
Right.
Raw determination. I mean, he was... He wasn't a great figure, but admire,
You admire his determination. That's what
and
you
just
admire.
Against all odds, just an interesting historical character.
Yeah, okay. So, TV show you were obsessing over or binge watching? If you are, you might not be.
I was, So I just finished watching Chernobyl. It was very good. Yeah, I was on the plane. I had last week or week before, I had 2 10-hour flights in the same week. And so I just finished all of Chernobyl. It was very good. And it's not long. Okay. It's like a mini-series.
Is that Netflix or?
Yeah, Netflix. Okay, of course.
Okay, yeah, of course. There you go. All right. We're not advertising Netflix anything or anything. Okay. What do you do to de-stress?
I have a cup of tea usually and just sit outside. Whatever is the weather. Yeah. I mean, I live by the sea here in Belize, which is excellent if you don't live by the sea. But just sitting outside fresh air and just a nice cup of tea.
That sounds really nice. I could just join you right now for that, Meg. You want to just jump on a plane, get down to Belize, and have some tea with Robin by the water.
In some nice sunshine. It sounds wonderful. It does.
With those birds in the background. Oh, man. Okay, last one. First thing you do when you wake up.
Stretch.
Like yoga stretch or just stretch?
Just like one big
stretch.
Cat stretch, yeah.
Yeah. Nothing feels better than a good stretch. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You survived the rapid fire, and oh my gosh, we so appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your journey with us. It's just been fascinating, and I think this is really going to benefit a lot of young people out there trying to figure out what their plans and goals are. So you've got a lot of great tips and advice in here, and we really appreciate you coming on and sharing all you did.
Thank you so much for having me on. And I was listening to some of the other shows, I guess, episodes that you've done, and it's really important to get out information to people because so many people don't believe in themselves or think these goals are just impossible to reach. But if a young girl from Belize could get a full scholarship to Oxford, you can do anything.
There
you go. And Robin, you are a young and impressive girl. And hey, at 26, you've already done so much. I can't wait to see what's in store for you.
Thank you.
Take care and have a great rest of your day.
That was such a great conversation with Robin. She has had so many interesting life experiences, and I'm so glad she took the time to share her story with us and our listeners.
Absolutely. I think so many people are going to find this valuable and inspirational, and we can't thank Robin enough for coming on and sharing everything that she did with us.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see where Robin ends up. She's got a bright future ahead for sure. So while we have you guys, if you could take some time to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast, we would really appreciate that.
Right. And follow us on Instagram, All Things College and Career, and on Twitter, and wherever you get your social media, we're there.
Yeah, we pretty much are. Thanks for joining us today, everyone.
Thank you, and have a great day.